Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. So this video is a result of requests that I've been getting from a lot of people, which is to compare different IEMs under rupees 2000. Before I begin this video, I just want to say any perfect audio product, maybe it an IEM earphone or a headphone, it actually doesn't exist. But sitting here and making these videos, I try to put in my 100% efforts to recommend you something, hoping that it would be liked by you. But I also believe there will always be 10 to 20% people who don't agree with my opinion and recommendation. And if in the past you have bought something based on my recommendation and I don't like it simply doesn't mean that you wasted your money. At least you got to know this is something that you don't want and you need to start somewhere. Also, by the end of this video, I'll tell you about some of my personal favorite IEMs, which are definitely not the regular ones, and detailed unboxing and in-depth reviews of all the products shown in this video will be there in the description. So let me just list out the different IEMs that we would be comparing in this video, and I'll try to include the sound samples wherever it is necessary. So first we have the Moondrop 2, then we have the Tangzu Waner SG, Blon BL-03, KZ Castor, KZ ZSN Pro, and CCZ Coffee Bean. So first I want to start with the Moondrop 2 that come at a price of 18 to 900 rupees, and I would say at this particular price point these are the kind of IEMs that come with one of the best build quality. So it's an all metal build, and if you're looking at these cables, so it's very soft, very lightweight, and a very premium looking cable. Also, if I talk about the IEMs itself, so it's a very small and compact IEM, and if you want to use these IEMs for long hours and still want to stay comfortable, so this is something that you should get. If I talk about the frequency response, so they highlight the frequencies from 3 to 4000 kilohertz, which are mainly your vocal frequencies, so more suited for vocal based content and one for songs. If you're someone who want to get these IEMs mainly for bass, so you should stay away from these because they only come with 10mm dynamic driver, and as the cavity on these IEMs is small, so they would be suffering from bass to some extent. The next we have is the Tangzu Waner SG, which are priced between 15 to 1600 rupees, and I would say at this particular price point the construction here is very basic. So the IEMs are made from resin, and I really like the cable quality on this one. It looks very premium and also very sturdy, like it's much sturdier cable as compared to the Moondrop 2. If I talk about the driver, so they come with the same 10mm drivers inside as they came with the Moondrop 2, but because they have like the dual cavities inside the driver, so they are producing much better bass as compared to the Moondrop 2. What I would say, like, this is a kind of IEM that is very much balanced between all the frequencies, and I would say it's an enhanced dynamic driver earphone, which simply means that you throw away anything to these IEMs, maybe any bass oriented content or any vocal content or high frequency content. It produces everything in good balance. Overall, I also felt that the volume on the Tangzu Waner SG is much better as compared to the Moondrop 2 because the sensitivity on these IEMs is 107 dB, while on the Moondrop 2 is 119 dB, which simply means that if I'm listening to these IEMs at volume level 20, so in order to get the same volume on Moondrop 2, I have to push up the volume level to 40. Now this is something that can be managed through the volume control, but I believe if you are someone who is listening to any music at night, or maybe you're watching any movie at night at a very low volume, so it's going to produce much better frequency response as compared to the Moondrop 2. This is the kind of difference that I came to know, especially related to sensitivity, while I was making this comparison video. Here is a sample audio comparison between both of these. The next we have is the Blon BL-03, which is priced somewhere around 200 rupees, I think 2100 to be very precise. And for this particular price, you have this metal build and they have the 10mm drivers inside. I reviewed these IEMs a long back, and what I didn't like about these IEMs is mainly the fitting, because every time when I was trying to use them, they were slipping out of my ears. And overall, if I talk about the sound signature, so they have a sensitivity of 102, which is like the lowest among all the products that you're seeing in this video. And overall, the response from these IEMs is really good, and I never had any sort of issues related to the sound signature, but just because the fitting wasn't good and they were always slipping out of my ears, so I was not getting a good bass. So that is the reason I'm not using Blon BL-03 on a regular basis. But if you're someone who can play around with some ear tips, or you are getting a very good fitting with the Blon BL-03, so at a price of 2100 rupees, these are like very warm sounding IEMs. They have good balance, just like the Tangzu Waner. You won't be having any sort of complaints, and the sensitivity is lowest, which is 102. So at this particular price point, I think Blon BL-03 is also one of the good option. The next we have is the KZZSN Pro, priced at 1800 rupees, and at this particular price point you enter into the world of balanced armature. So they have one dual driver and one balanced armature inside, and these IEMs are really very much detailed in the high frequency region, and they produce really a very good stereo. So I would say that these are not the bass sounding IEMs, but if you're someone who is looking for extreme details in the high frequency, so you can get the KZZSN Pro. Also, the frequency response covered is from 7 Hz to 40,000 Hz, which is widest among all the products you are looking at this in the video. But all the people who have bought these, they have like one major complaint, that the IEMs are sometimes very sharp, especially the sound of C and S. This sounds very sharp, especially if you are pushing the volume to a very high level. So that is something you need to know. But I feel that these IEMs are very good for gaming, especially for BGMI and PUBG, where you want to hear the footsteps very precisely and very clearly, and also because the stereo is very good, so you can distinguish between the left and right channels very clearly. So overall, not recommended for bass oriented content, but for extreme details in the high frequencies, you can go with the KZZSN Pro. The next we have the KZ castor, somewhere around 1500 rupees, and at this particular price point you get a metal resin build. It has two drivers inside, the 10mm main driver and a 8mm smaller one, and also these IEMs come with 4 tuning switches, and also the cable is like the brown looking conventional KZ cable that the company has been shipping nearly with all their IEMs. Now talking about the important part, which is the frequency response. Now after my recommendation, some people who already had the Tangzu Waner, they went for the KZ castor and they were really disappointed, and the complaints were like, the IEMs are sounding low, they are sounding muddy, the balance between the 8mm and 10mm driver is not good. Overall, the satisfaction level was really low. While I was making this comparison, I got a little more deep into the technical specs, and I found that the normal Harman target version of the KZ castor needs an impedance somewhere between 30 to 35 ohms, and any smartphone can drive a earphone or headphone that has an impedance of around 32 ohms. So anything beyond 32 ohms need some amount of better power, so you need to add some sort of DAC with these IEMs if you are using it with your smartphone. So you can say overall these IEMs are really some amount, to some extent it's a power hungry IEM. The version that I have is the normal, is the Harman target base version, and it has an impedance somewhere between 16 to 20 ohms, so any smartphone would be able to drive these properly. That's why I never had any problem using the base version, but if you have the normal Harman target version, you would be encountering some sort of problem with that version. Overall, if I talk about the sound signature, I would say this is a bass oriented IEM. I mean, you can play around with tuning switches and you can get some really good amount of bass. If you are someone who is into more low frequency music like the meditation music, so it's really going to sound good on this one. But if I talk about the vocal frequencies, even though they have the dedicated 8mm drivers inside, but vocal frequencies and high frequencies would be produced much better on the Tangzu Waner compared to KZ castor. Overall, like when I'm making this comparison, I'm telling you about these in-depth details, but if like this is the only IEM you have, you won't be having any sort of problem with the KZ castor or with Tangzu or with the Moondrop 2. Now with this we come to the last IEM of this entire comparison, which is the CCZ Coffee Bean, which is priced around 1500 rupees. Now CCZ Coffee Bean is not that popular IEM, but I would say it is my personal favorite in this entire comparison. Now what makes them my personal favorite is, first of all, the IEMs are very lightweight. It weighs around 3 grams. It has this small ear fin on this particular side, so if you are wearing these IEMs for a better fit or a secure fit, you can always push these IEMs slightly more deeper to have like it locks very properly inside your ears, and also the lightweight of these IEMs makes it very comfortable for a long use. Overall, if I talk about the sound signature, so the sensitivity on this is around 111 dB and the impedance is around 18 ohms, so you can drive these IEMs very nicely with your smartphone and also with your computer. Overall, while I was making this comparison, I just felt that at a volume level of 20, these were the IEMs that were giving me a huge amount of volume, even better than the Tangzu Waner. And overall, it makes they have like good amount of details in the high frequencies, and also the low frequencies, especially the bass part is like really good. So wherever whether you are watching movies or music or playing games, these IEMs would be very much suitable, just like the Tangzu Waner. Overall, while I was making this comparison, I have come to know two important things, that impedance and sensitivity play a very important role. Impedance can be like achieved by increasing the amount of volume by about turning the volume knob up or down, so that you can match the volume levels. But sensitivity is something that plays a very important role, because if you are playing these IEMs at a very low volume and you want to get an output with really a low amount of current across the drivers, so I think sensitivity should be as low as possible. And if I talk about some of the good sounding IEMs in this entire comparison, so it is this CCZ Coffee Bean, the Tangzu Waner, and I think also the Blon BL-03, which are very sensitive. So overall, CCZ are my personal favorite ones. And if I talk about the overall balanced IEMs, you can go with the Tangzu Waner. KZ Castor is recommended only for the PC, your laptop, or maybe if you want to use them with some amount of DAC. Moondrop Q2 is good, especially for good vocals. Especially for gaming, I would recommend the KZ ZSN Pro. And if I talk about the Blon BL-03, they are also sounding like the Tangzu Waner and CCZ Coffee Bean. I hope you find this comparison helpful. And if you have any doubts, you can always put your questions in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.